Yo everyone, and welcome to the big news of today. Setsuko VODs just released his site with augment stats. And yes, these are real augment stats. But the way he did this was by taking the stats of the games Setsuko has been playing. So both his augment and his opponent in Setsuko's games, and then combining these into this site. Big site. And this was done by looking at Suzuka's games in the spectator mode. The reason I'm covering this is because it's probably going to be a very big discussion and a very big controversy. If you weren't playing TFT in set 9, there was a similar situation then. Riot tried to ban augment stats, but people created similar kinds of quote unquote black market stats. So basically stats not utilizing Riot's API, so they got stats from other ways. Now you can't get them in the same way because then they used to get them from the match histories and look at what the augments people took. So you could do it on a way bigger scale, like get every challenger game ever on a patch. But now you need to do it on like a individual level, and you need to actually spectate the person's game. So you can't do it for many games. So in general, these stats are going to be like kinda fake because the sample size is so low. Like especially for these lower, it's completely fake. For the higher ones, you can kinda get a bit of a like advantage if you look at them, I think, especially if you consider what kind of game it is, since it's going to be high level challenger games mostly. But yeah, it's still, honestly, it's still pretty fake. I would not be looking at this as something like, okay, this is a 4.5, this is a 4.2, the 4.2 must be better. The sample size is a bit too low. But you can definitely, if you're completely clueless of the augments, I would definitely think this is pretty, or like decent, especially like one big thing. If you're a master or something, it's especially useful because you can see which ones are picked a lot in Setsuko's games. So since Portable Forge is picked this much, it's almost for sure very good. Like people aren't going to be trolling and picking this in like GM average games probably, or even Challenger. So yeah, that's some, you can definitely use this in different ways. It's not completely fake as some might say, uh, but it's not as big as before. So what do I think of it? Well, first of all, I think it's not a bad thing that it's publicly available, first of all, because it's really not that hard to create this site. Like I'm studying computer science, so I'm like kind of aware of how to do it. It's not hard. I mean, even people who don't know, it's not that hard to realize that it's not that hard to create. You just need to spectate the games of a player, look what augments people take and their opponents, and then just see which placement they end on. It's not that difficult. So it's better having it for public than like only give it to Setsuko or whatever. Not that Setsuko would want that or do that, but yeah, just still. And it's also good that it's not really feasible to do this on a big scale. If you would do this on a big scale, you would need to like spectate a bunch of people individually. And like technically it's possible, but no one is gonna sit there and make have like 10 computers spectating 10 different people and recording the stats for each game. Like it's just not really feasible. Um, but in the end, something like this is very easy to do, so it's not weird that it exists. And I don't really think Riot can do anything about it. Even if they remove the spectating feature, you can easily do this with streams as well. So if someone is streaming, you can also do it. not as easily, but yeah, you can still do it. So there's always going to be something like this with a small sample size at least. So basically, it comes down to if Riot wants to allow that and just say it's fine, which I probably think is the correct way, because these stats are kind of fake anyways. Like, I think just having a tier list from Setsuko himself or something is a lot more trustworthy than these stats. These stats can say a few things that can't say, but yeah, in general, I would trust that way more. So, um, so either Riot decides to allow that, or they just ban it again and say that okay, we would much rather have something public that so we know everyone has the same circumstances and everyone plays on the same by the same book or whatever. So yeah, personally, I'm kind of a fan of not having augment stats because otherwise it becomes a lot of just learning the augment stats and yeah, looking at augment stats while playing the game with having like 10 different conditions applied to your advanced explorer on tactical schools, which is kind of cringe, I think. I, it's good for me personally because I don't play much and I'm like high level and not playing that much, so it's kind of good. But yeah, it's it's not that fun, I think. So unless someone come up with a way of doing this on a big scale without like spending a ton of money, because I don't think people want to spend a ton of money to create these stats. But if someone does that, or does doing it on a big scale and selling those stats, I think that would be a big problem. But right now, I personally don't think it's a big enough problem for Riot to need to do anything. And like, if they're gonna ban this guy or whatever, that's yeah, even worse. I think like people can do this, so like I don't know. It won't really matter if they try to ban the site or something. I think. But yeah, that's everything. And if you want to check out stats, I'm not going to go through the stats here because I think it doesn't give that much information, and I'm going to like sit here and noob trick. I guess you can look at a top 10 augments. That's the best thing you can do probably, and see what challengers are picking. But if you want to see them, I will link the website in the description. You can go check it out. And see you next time when there's more news to cover. Peace.